This is George Merkl from Life Crystal Incorporated.
Crystals extracted from off-the-shelf food items using the chemical-free process during the sun's energy. That crystal polarizes and amplifies light. You can see it depolarizing flowing water, which of course then had a profound effect on biophysics. The index of reflection is given high resolution in microscopy, which will lift the veil of mystery, the boiling point of water, and lower its freezing point. Here you see the macrocapillaries in life crystal, like in the centriole, the pyramids aligned in a neat array. Sectional view, you can see the vortex going through the center of the pyramid. Mystery of life crystal unravels. The internal structure of life crystal. The imprint of the universe within.
The ultimate truth, the power of the tetrahedral concept of the vortex field, evidenced here. The light dematerializes, becoming free energy scrolls, the signature of the universe for free energy. Free energy drawn by the macrotubules, the tetrahedral crystals that lead through the center of the pyramid, creating the toroidal fields which set the pattern for the formation of the vortex crystals. Through the center tube of the pyramid, through the microtubules, a proton gradient is pumping, drying the electrons, which producing the toroidal fields. And because the tetrahedral structures, the different sizes of the toroids coupling into the toroidal field. The life crystal depolarizing the water, losing its boiling point, and explodes at high temperature, capturing the free energy within the tetrahedral dome. It is feasible to unleash the hydrogen from water. With this discovery, man may step up to a higher plane and be able to join the higher civilizations in the coming century. The generation of toroidal fields and tetrahedral vortexes also takes place in the life processes, mainly in the centriole. As we take a single tubules, microtubules of the centriole, and a proton gradients pumping electrons through that, it will generate a toroidal field, which toroidal field then polarizes genetic materials and begins to form primitive lives. Now, in the centriole, we have 3 sets of microtubules times 9 in a radius, 27 of them. And as all these microtubules are adding up, and all the fields, the toroidal fields, are coupling, it's culminating in a vortex field. And that vortex field then is responsible for turning genetic materials into supercoils and compressing them into chromosomes. Now you can see how the centriole and the life crystal is interrelated. There are only 2 organelles where double polarization takes place, or where you can create black holes and white holes. And these 2 organelles are the nucleolus and the centrioles. And these organelles are capable of organizing life because they are capable of absorbing free energy and life energy. And without that free energy, life cannot exist. One may call this free energy the energy of creation, the breath of creation, or the breath of God. Tetrahedral vortex field goes a long way. It can shift the center of mass of water and raise seas to airborne, just like the giant vortex on the planet Jupiter. A planet may lose its seas if such fields depolarizing the water in its seas. A spacecraft may dematerialize at zero time to beat the speed of light, or enter into reverse time travel as it's converted to free energy, a single particle of light. There is 918 pairs of scrolls to one photon. And that is the breath of creation. And now, in this documentary, we shall unravel the secret of life. To probe into the mysterious unknown. To explore a universe within our cell nucleus, and within our nucleolus, to explore the organelles, such as the centrioles. A new frontier that is far more exciting than space exploration.
That's the breath like this chromosome is identical to our own, except this one is a beautiful large crystal. This, in Gardner's molecular biology, on page 382, I wish to compare this one. Crystals are created in black holes and white holes through bipolarization, like in this crystal. life form leaves its signature frequency, signature, a life crystal, and there is no two life crystals alike. This life crystal grown by two centrioles. The halo of energy is eminent. These are crystal cells from primordial time. They even divide, but they hold no breath of God, for the breath of life is missing. One may make a crystal human, but it shall be lifeless, like a statue. Mesentrioles and nucleus is polarized light. If like life crystal, storing life crystal within themselves that they use to build genetic material and proliferate life. Life, like this cell, loves to feed on life crystal. Life crystal serves as nourishment for the genes. Where life crystal grows into microtubules, so does protein built into microtubules and fibrils in the same way as life crystal. Genetic mystery is at the end of this protein fibril. Life begins to evolve. As the genetic material congregates at each pore of life of our genes, life crystal comes out of dormancy. The lone protein fibril, like a spindle, begins to turn on life.
This is history today.
Here we can see this spindle turning out the rhodial field, which the rhodial field then polarizes genetic material to turn out primitive life. And this spindle with a microtubule generates the field by proton gradient, inducing an electron flow.
Here you can see two centrioles dividing the nucleolus.
You see the slug, but can organize genetic materials and put into order. Those are the centriole two organizing genetic materials. It's a reading machine. Turning DNA molecules into supercoils and then compressing them into chromosomes. Can be seen here how the spindle is turning out the supercoils. And here comes, of course, the chromosomes. Below head. Finally, the chromosomes.
Here we can see an organelle bouncing around. And here we see a ribosome.
Here you can see organelles. genetic materials. Slugs are capable of producing proteins, but they also are nuclear organizers. They can organize genetic material into life because they contain the plants of life. Here we can see another organelle, and here we can see the centrioles and the slug organizing genetic materials to form life. Here's another organelle. Here we can see a slug actually manufacturing proteins. It's a protein factory. You can see a nucleus in a protein factory, the slug. The nucleus providing the genetic materials for the slugs, which contributes to proteins.
It's very similar to Golgi apparatus.
These are parts of the slugs. Here we can see two centrioles and the slug. These are all parts of the factories within our cell. And these parts have been not known before. This is seen the first time as it's discovered.
This will be discussed in detail in 1994.
And you can see what a organized life. You can see a slug again from side view in the midst of genetic material in primordial soup. Is also a slug from side view. It's producing a germ cell, a primordial one. The two spherical centrioles visible, and in the center is the nucleolus. The spherical centrioles can divide the nucleolus. They interrelate. And it seems they can reproduce each other. Here again, production of organelles. These are the new type of chondrianas in evolution. This is progressing. You've been a microtubules line. You can see how it flows from the energy. It's set up by a proton gradient electron flow, producing toroidal fields. Eventually it turns into vortex fields. And you can see nucleoluses, or rather nucleuses, dividing. It's being mass produced by the mitochondrias. Here again we can see the two centrioles dividing the nucleus. Perhaps this is the reason why the nucleolus disappears during cell division. Here you can actually see the nucleolus very clearly. It two spherical centrioles. It's being divided. This lot
the section of the centrioles. Centrioles structured in a very unique way. And we have seen that the spindles of the centrioles returning at the supercoils of genetic materials. This transfer RNA is produced and encoded in the nucleolus of the nucleus and have been reconstructed by crystallographic data. You can see it here, the proposed structure of transfer RNA. It is the real McCoy was taken via live crystal to transfer RNA and packaged with the ribosome inside the nucleolus. The ribosome that will decode the transfer RNA. You can actually see in reality the ribosomes. Genetic material is replicated, crystal. You can see our histones packed along the DNA molecule.
These are genetic materials taken apart. These are some DNA molecules. See here again the spindle with the toroidal field. And here you can see a slug organizing life as the genetic materials is polarized around it and recycled. It's a microtubule, alive, tubule, organizing genetic material to form primitive life. And you can see the slug again organizing genetic material into primitive life. Here you actually can see a centriole organizing genetic material into primitive life forms. The centriole is seen very clear. And here we have a ribosome rocking along. Ribosomes are very important organelles. They are the one decoding the transfer RNA to carry the message for protein production. Here, a genetic material organized at the end of the microtubule, which generates a field, and the field will polarize the genetic material. Per coil, 5, the end of the spindle with the chromosomes. And this is a primordial cell by itself as an independent life rocking along. Primordial cells can differentiate into other cells, among other things, sex cells. These particular primordial cells were not united with the Sertoli cells. Therefore, it did not develop the tail, which indicates that the Sertoli cells are contributing the tail to the spermatozoa. This has been done in vitro via live crystal. And these primordial cells now we can mass produce via live crystal.
which then could differentiate into other cells, but most importantly, immune cells, giant immune cells. And we can turn the clock back on those immune cells millions of years. So those immune cells and those lymphocytes could be as big as 4 to 40 times the spindle of the centriole. The first time ever seen alive. Here again we see a ribosome rocking and oscillating along. All the organelles inside our cell once lived an independent life. Billions of years ago, the unification of those independent life created a cell with a nucleus. And our organelles are now, and those organelles devolved in time. We can take those organelles now and turn the clock back and bring them back to life the way they were billions of years ago. And ironically, they can reproduce all the organelles in great numbers, like reproducing mitochondria, reproducing centrioles, reproducing nucleuses, and even reproducing primordial cells and germ cells, which of course is prerequisite for cell differentiation, rejuvenation, and reversing aging. When the nucleus is separated from the DNA in vitro, the nucleus will travel and seek out the DNA, recycling it into a new life. You can see the splitting of a nucleus. Here, nucleuses splitting in the island of DNA, recycling them. Here, the nucleus and nucleolus is clearly visible. It is the recycled genetic materials building a new life, a new primitive. These are primordial cells, and this is a chondriana producing nucleoluses and nucleuses. Now we have different type of chondrianas producing different type of organelles and genetic materials. And here you can see genetic material alive as it's being taken apart and reconstructed by genetic organizers, just like this slug, for example. Centrioles and nucleoluses.
And nucleuses are capable of recycling all genetic materials into new and organizing life. You can see the twist of the DNA with all the histones attached to it. And you can see nucleuses recycling genetic materials. These are life form from protein fibril. And the nucleus can produce centrioles, nucleoluses, and other organelles. Of course, the mass production of primordial cells will lead to rejuvenation and age reversing. This is a centriole at the end of a microtubule. And this is two spherical centriole. And these are parts from the slugs. I will elaborate on this in 1994 in detail. A very exciting breakthrough. How these slugs, I call them, can produce proteins, and they work together with the nucleus. Here is a chondriana producing organelles. You can see the organelles inside. Now, we can reproduce everything with live crystal, any genetic material, and we can turn the clock back on genetic material and reproduce ancient form of life, or other ancient life forms. We can trace the devolutionary path via live crystal, because live crystal can absorb life energy and can replicate the energy level that existed when the sun was younger. You can see action inside the nucleolus. You can see how the organelles are working inside. The nucleus and the nucleolus. This is where genetic materials produce the transfer RNA and also packaging proteins with genetic materials. Protein production also takes place in the cytoplasm that we call the apparatus. So there is more than one places protein can be produced, but it's evidencing here that protein is produced right into the nucleus. Not only the genetic materials. During cell division, the nuclear membrane dissolves and releasing all the hardware from the nucleoplasm, which is supplying the parts to replicate the DNA. As you have seen earlier, the spindle of the centriole is act as a weaving machine, stretching out the chromosome, unwinding the supercoils, and then replicating the DNA. Now, during this phase, the nucleus is also divided, and there is evidence that spherical centrioles can divide the nucleus. You can see the organelles working inside the nucleus. And also can see how protein is emerging through the nuclear membranes, through septums. The tubules, or rather the spindles, and the tubules of the centrioles are really cemented with ATP and GTP, and one controls the forward growth of the tubules or the spindle, and the other the reverse, is assembling. So one is assembling the tubules and cementing, and the other one is disassembling. That is the way the spindle is moving back and forth during the cell division, different phases. Now look very carefully, see what's happening inside there. See, there is an organelle up at 12 o'clock. They keep on moving, taking on different positions. Matter of fact, there is two of them. One of them is around 3 o'clock. Light crystal is polarizing the light, but also has very high index of reflection. And because of these characteristics, when it's used in light microscopy, everything becomes visible and we obtain a very high clear resolution. Here you can see actually how a protein just emerged through the nuclear membrane. As you know, the DNA strands are wrapped around histones. There are two turns around the histones. And we observe the DNA molecule, the little marbles are histones. Now this is the centriole with the 3 sets of microtubules, 9 of them in the radius. It's set up sort of like a galaxy. And these microtubules generating the vortex field as the proton gradients pumping electrons through. Now these microtubules, at the two ends we have centrioles located, and those are generating the field, which then can organize genetic material into life form. But they also can bend, as you can see here, into a horseshoe and then form a circle. The spherical centriole is visible. And once they bend into a circle, the toroidal field around the circle will start to attract genetic materials, as you can witness it here. You can see at the end of the just have seen there a centriole. Now here the more and more genetic material is being polarized. You can see here actually the membrane begins to develop, and of course inside the life formation begins, and the mitochondria is being born. This is a microtubules alive. See, the proton gradient is pumping the electrons through the center. Now these are nucleuses, and this again is a primordial cell. which can differentiate into many different types of cells, including sex cells, or can also differentiate into lymphocytes. Now, here you can see very clearly the progress of the ring of the protein fiber that has been bent into a circle with the two centrioles by attraction begins to organize life. This is another primordial cell with some genetic materials organizing. The genetic material actually will evolve into life form. Here again, we see the progress of life evolved, some very beginning. And here already in progress. Now here, at the end of the microtubules, life, primitive life, being organized by the field, by polarization. Here again, various type of agglomeration of genetic material by polarization forming life. Now this particular one was a centriole, and this one has a slug inside, in the protein factory. And here again, the microtubules are bent into circles, and you can see very clearly in the bottom the centriole. It's still separated from the tubes on the outside. And here, two spherical centriole, and above it is a nucleolus. And I have evidence of that these can divide nucleoluses. This is primordial cell formations, formation of sex cells, or precursors. This is simply by agglomeration. There's many different ways life can evolve. We always need organizer. These are primordial cells producing primordial cell. This is going to be a chondriana producing primordial cells. You can see all the independent life in chondrianas. This is a chondriana. You can see inside the activity. You can also see the cilius. The opening in the back they use laying genetic material. Now this is a sex cell, a human sex cell, giant. You will see here the diploid and haploid cells. That means that the cells divided into four. And even before the first division, the second division already began. These primordial cells, just like a chondriana, they also haploids, but they're giant. And these are our precursor cells. And that is indicating that we may have been descendant of giants, because these are 30 times bigger than our normal one, what we have today. And all I have done, I increased the energy level of the cell via live crystal to go back in time and see where they came from. See, as the sun is cooling, our cells becoming purer and purer. We're going through evolution. And that's one of the reasons why our defense cells not capable of defending us anymore against certain diseases. Now, the bigger these cells, the more powerful they are. You see, during the age of dinosaurs, we had 3,600 electron volts in the air. And today we're lucky if we get 14, 15. As the dinosaurs turn into lizards, that's probably what happened to us too. And you can notice that these cells are really attracted by a field. They have difficulty to separate. Sometimes they separate, but they're attracted back together again. Now this particular one has a little difficulty to separate. But the help is on the way. All these life forms, cells, organelles, genetic material, they're highly intelligent, super intelligent. You see it separating, so watch it carefully. Keep separating and reattracting. This is what we may call the original intelligence, or nascent intelligence. Now they finally separated. You see, we are all made of free energy. This free energy turned into light, or other light. And we evolve from that. So we are part of our universe, and the universe is part of us. We are made from the breath of God. And we all live that seed within us. His breath is part of us, and we are part of His breath. This is why intuition is far more important than science, to be able to connect up on a much higher plane, so we understand where we're coming from, what's the purpose, and what our destiny. Now you can see again here the diploid cells, the original splitting. First 2, and then again to 4. Begin to divide again before separation. The oscillators, they help to chop up the microbes in the infected culture. And then the chondrianas, they mopping up the remains. Now here you can see one colloidal wire is capturing another, or rather one organelle capturing another. See, one organelle just captured the nucleus and forming a new form of life. And this is probably the way the organelles united to form a higher order of life. Now here, the chondriana is going to give birth at 3 o'clock. The first is ready to break out at 3 o'clock through the membrane septum. Notice the membrane doesn't move because it's anchored to the floor. They all will come out at 3 o'clock, which proves that the membrane is anchored. It's very important also to know that the membrane of these chondrianas are invasive. They attach themselves to diseases, cancers, parasites, and they take them apart, recycling. At one time, we had secondary defense, far superior to our current defense. Like now, our stem cells, they produced in the bone marrow, and that's the originator of all our defense cells. But defense cells, much better quality, much stronger, much bigger, can be differentiated from primordial cells, and those are the original defense, what we used to have. What takes place in the bone marrow today is remnants. Of the primary defense we used to have. Now we can recreate those primary defense sequences, we can turn the clock back and we can reproduce those giant defense cells from our primordial cells. This is why it's very important to keep our primordial cell production at maximum level. And I have evidence that antibiotics destroying the primordial cell production, and that could be also attributed to the drop of sperm count of the American males, which was recently published. But females also producing primordial cells, and those primordial cells also can be turned into.
This microorganism has been found in Western Australia, fossilized, 3.5 billion years old, 30 microns in cross-section. You can lay the chondriana over it, and it matches even in size. And this one is only a few days old and alive. They have been recalled to life. And this is spirulina, also an ancient organism. When it's crossed with the chondriana, they will pass genetic material to each other, and we wind up with spiral chondriana and chondriana spiral, a new form of organism that can produce the food, the nutrients to feed the world in Pyrex columns using solar energy and solar hydrogen. The crystals take the shape of the spirulina, segmented, containing ATP GTP, beta-carotenes, proteins, and lipids, glycerides.
Thank you for listening. God bless you.
Wasn't that the most exciting discovery in science that you've ever watched? Alright, my friends. Peace out.